Hi everyone, I'm Ruth Barr and I'm the Volunteer Coordinator with Sanctuary and Houses of Hope. Thank you for all that you've done and for the support that you've provided during this difficult time. The food and social contact that you've provided have been a lifeline for residents. Our original intention in making a video was to set out some plans for resuming face-to-face volunteering. But now all that's back on hold until at least the 19th of August. However, we decided to proceed anyway to share some updates with you and to prepare you for what we hope will be a resumption of direct volunteering in the coming months. So please watch this video so that we can all be on the same page as we await the start of full partnering again with you to support people seeking asylum. We've all had the opportunity to reflect on what we would do if there was an outbreak close to us, and Sanctuary is no exception. You won't be surprised to hear that we've made very clear plans in relation to a positive outbreak at the rooming houses or in a house of hope, and that these plans entail infection control measures involving significant restrictions and ultimately a complete facility lockdown. And when I use that term, I mean lockdown as distinct from the stage 3 restrictions now in place, which is sometimes described as a lockdown. So if we had a positive case somewhere in our accommodation, volunteers would be advised as early as possible to stay away. Exposures would be traced and we would cooperate fully with the state health authorities to contain the spread and to maximise safety. I want to talk to you briefly about a more likely scenario that could affect now those currently assisting us in providing food for residents. And it would apply obviously to all volunteers once face-to-face connections with residents resume. This scenario is where a volunteer develops symptoms and may also have had contact with a staff member, another volunteer or a resident of Sanctuary in the preceding days. We are requesting you please to abide by the protocol that we've developed for the Sanctuary staff team, and it goes like this. Number 1, have a COVID test as soon as possible. Number 2, self-isolate at home immediately. Number 3, ring your Sanctuary supervisor, Ruth or April or myself, as soon as possible to advise us of your test and who you might have had contact with. Depending on the circumstances, we will discuss with you whether it's advisable that others in the Sanctuary and Houses of Hope world to whom you've had exposure also be made aware of the possibility of this, of infection, even before your test results are back. We know that the small window of 2 to 3 days before a test result is known could be an important opportunity to limit potential spread. But please be assured in this situation that we would never disclose information about you without your consent. All we're saying is that if there is a chance of infection, we would really welcome the opportunity to have a discussion with you about whether the most responsible way forward might not be to immediately inform some others. Number 4, finally, please, we ask that you let us know as soon as possible the result of your COVID test. If it's positive, we would expect that the state health authorities would have stepped in immediately to guide the way forward for all of us with proper tracing and contacting. If it's negative, hopefully we can all relax, although I have to tell you that Back Care would be asking for a clearance letter from you before you can resume resident and staff and volunteer contact again.
Hi, I'm Ruth Buckmaster, caseworker with the Houses of Hope. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to discuss resumption of volunteering with your usual contact person at VaptCare. This needs to be at your pace. Some volunteers are keen to resume, whereas others might be reflecting on whether they wish to continue in the new COVID environment. For others, remote connections like chatting or tutoring via Zoom is a more attractive option. For all volunteers who anticipate working directly with residents, as soon as possible, you will be issued with a personal protection kit. That's a small pack containing gloves, face masks, tissues, and hand sanitizer for use during your client contact. Hand sanitising stations will be available at the entry to the rooming houses and at Food Bank, but not in the Houses of Hope. We ask that you get into the practice of using hand sanitizer before, during, and after all resident contact. As we speak with sanctuary residents, we are also seeing that some are excited to reconnect again, while others are more cautious and may want to wait. It will be a three-way decision about proceeding. There'll be no expectation of a reconnection unless all parties are ready. Prior to any direct face-to-face contact with a resident, we ask that you confirm with the person that they are well, have no symptoms that could be a sign of coronavirus, like sore throat, fever, respiratory problems, or a runny nose, and that they have not had known contact in the last few days with anyone who has had a positive diagnosis. The staff at Sanctuary may not be aware of residents' changing health conditions. If you are in direct contact with the resident, you could ring them prior to the visit to check. If the resident is unwell, the visit should not proceed. We ask that you withdraw, explaining that it's wise to be cautious anytime anyone is unwell, and that you will show them the same consideration. We also ask you to contact Sanctuary staff to let us know. If a resident needs support to seek medical care, then we will assist them with this. We also request that you apply the same questions to yourself to check your own health prior to embarking on visits or contact. That is, do I have a sore throat, fever, respiratory problems, or runny nose? And is there anyone with whom I have had contact in the last few days who has been tested and could have the virus?
My name's April Huglin and I am a Houses of Hope caseworker with Sanctuary. As the person is a member of your close family and household, social distancing is the new way in which we spend time together. This means that we maintain 1.5 metres of distance between ourselves and the other person, that we don't touch, and that as far as possible, we spend time in spaces where there is good air circulation. The responsible way to behave for any person who is unwell with symptoms that could be coronavirus is to stay home, away from others, and have a test as soon as possible. Masks are now accepted as an effective way to limit transmission. We will provide disposable masks for use during your volunteer contacts with residents in the future. We ask that you maintain social distancing at all times when volunteering, and if you can't stay at least 1.5 metres away, either leave the area or wear your mask until you are able to. As we're now in flu season, we're recommending that everyone has a flu vaccination. We want to reduce the risk of illness and passing on of infections, and flu vaccinations can be a way of lessening risks. We understand some of you may not wish to or have health issues that mean you can't do this. Please know that this is okay. Some of you have already confirmed that you've had a flu vaccination. If you have been vaccinated but have not yet let us know, we would appreciate hearing from you that this is the case. VaptCare is offered to pay for any volunteers' vaccinations. We just need a receipt. We would like you to be aware that some residents have not had the flu vaccine. and so your protection from infection is stronger if you have had a vaccination. All of us are already practicing diligent hand hygiene in our everyday lives, including the limited volunteering that's been occurring, for example, with Food Bank. Baptcare has now introduced a compliance requirement that all staff and volunteers who will have direct client contact complete hand hygiene training prior to recommencing work on site. Please complete the short hand washing demonstration at the end of this video, and please make sure to click the link and answer the questions at the end of the segment. When you watch the video, try to follow along with some hand sanitizer so that you can check if you are sanitizing correctly.
Recent months have been a challenging time for us all, and the changes we continue to live with affect us all in different ways, with added complexity and hardship for many Sanctuary and House of Hope residents. For some, the isolation may have been the greatest challenge, and they will be relieved and pleased to be able to see you again. For others, the impact on material supports and physical well-being may have been more of a challenge. Be assured that while asylum seekers may not have been eligible for all the government initiatives like JobKeeper, there have been additional supports offered to residents as much as possible from organisations such as the Red Cross and the Asylum Seeker Resource Centre, and through our own reconfigured food bank service, to which some of you have made a valuable and vital contribution these past months. We are now able to cater more responsively to individual needs through a new way of operating, a system that we continue to evolve and refine. Working together, we have also been able to support residents at times of self-isolating and remain prepared to do so in the event of more widespread restrictions or quarantine conditions. If you are concerned by the apparent needs that a resident displays or expresses to you, please contact one of us to bring it to our attention and to talk about this with us. We are all now trying to settle into the reality of our new normal and learning to live with changed circumstances, and with the flexibility required to adjust and readjust as needed. Be prepared to re-engage slowly, maintaining the COVID-safe practices we have all been integrating into our daily lives, together with residents. Remember your own individual protective concerns and choices, and respect those of our residents as well.
It's always important to remember that boundaries are in place as we work and volunteer with people. While we understand that friendships can develop, we encourage you to maintain some emotional distance. This makes it less difficult if you need to let us know about any concerns you have, or if the resident discloses anything to you that perhaps we need to know about. It also makes it easier if you need to seek support from staff. If someone has made a disclosure to you about their mental health or otherwise, staff are ready and willing to support both you and the resident. Reporting things to staff can ensure that we can put in place actions to support those in need. Communication and transparency are key to ensuring a positive outcome for everyone. Please be mindful that you are not expected to provide gifts, money, or pay for things for our residents. In fact, we ask you not to. We know that you all have such generosity of spirit and that you are passionate about supporting asylum seekers. We also understand that this may be difficult if you have the resources and see the need. However, as a volunteer, your role is to provide other forms of support to residents, and this is just as valuable to them, if not more so, than meeting their material needs. We do have resources to support the clients appropriately, so if you do see a need, please let the Sanctuary and Houses of Hope team know so that they can offer support and source alternative resources for the resident rather than trying to solve it yourself. We don't wish for any volunteer to feel that they are expected to help outside the boundaries of their role, and look forward to hearing from you regarding the residents.
So VAPCare is very keen to recommence our services in the new environment, but we're all mindful that community transmission of the virus remains a risk. The latest round of restrictions has now delayed direct client contact for most volunteers, but the time will come, we hope, when we can resume. Here is a list of the requests that we're making to you throughout this video, just to summarise. The list of the requests we're making of you to protect volunteers, residents and others in the new COVID-19 era of volunteering, whenever resumption occurs. First of all, we would really appreciate it if you would let us know if you have any symptoms that could be related to COVID-19, and if you've had recent contact with a resident, staff member or another volunteer. Second, could you confirm to us as soon as possible, when convenient, if you've had a flu vaccination, and be aware that some residents may not have had one. Do please discuss with us your volunteering preferences for the future, and don't feel under any pressure to undertake duties that you are not entirely comfortable with. There will continue to be other ways of being involved in Sanctuary and supporting our work. For example, via Zoom sessions with residents for tutoring, still being part of the Houses of Hope group, or helping us in promoting or fundraising. Fourth, remember to maintain social distance at all times that you're in the rooming house, in food bank or in Houses of Hope environments. And use the little COVID kit that we'll be providing to you to help you maintain hygiene and safety. Masks must be changed frequently and disposed of carefully, and we will give you some more training in relation to that down the track. We're endeavouring to obtain a supply of masks that we'll maintain for volunteering contacts. Please would you watch the short hand hygiene training at the end of this video and complete the 2 questions. And lastly, even when you do resume working directly with residents, on every occasion, please ask yourself before you go, have I got any symptoms that could be COVID-19? Sore throat, fever, runny nose, respiratory problems? And have I been in close contact with anyone in recent days who has had a positive diagnosis or been symptomatic? Please also make sure that you ask the resident the same questions prior to commencing your visit or at the outset. Thank you all so much for your boundless patience and your cooperation with us, helping us to get through the last few months and now still in this lockdown phase. We hope that things will return to almost normal in the near future, but we know that it'll be a long time before we're able to lift restrictions. We look forward to working together in partnership with you again. Stay safe and well. And here's the hand hygiene training, so please try to follow along with some hand sanitizer. Thank you.
I'm one of the nurse unit managers and educator at Coast Haven. And I'm here today to talk about hand washing. So there's 2 kinds of ways that you can wash your hands. So you can either use a basin or else you can use the hand sanitizer. The reason that you would choose a basin is if your hands are visibly soiled, then you would always use the basin and soap and water. If they're not, then you're welcome to use the sanitizer. So you start the process by removing your jewellery. So you take your rings off, take your watch off. Let's pretend I've done that. If you're using the basin, so you get the water running, use warm water, not too hot. We don't want to dry out your hands, but not too cold either. Hopefully you're using a basin that has a non-touch kind of tap, that you can either use your elbow to turn the water on. If you don't have that accessible, you can use a towel to turn the tap on. So you start by getting your hands wet, and then get enough soap onto your hands, a good amount, so that you're able to lather up onto your hands. And the process for washing then is the same as for the sanitizer. So when you're using the sanitizer, you press the dispenser all the way down to the bottom. Put it off. Oh, yeah. There we go. And you're rubbing across the surface of your hands here, rubbing across the top, both hands, going in between the fingers, all the way down, and the other side, and then in between the other direction as well. Go around the thumb, both sides, and then we want to get the pads of your fingers, so we go like that, and then we're aiming to do your fingertips, so we're going around this way as well on both sides. And then we're doing this one, which I always find hard on that side. This side's easier, so we're just wriggling backwards and forwards. And lastly, we're doing the wrists. So the whole process, when you're using the sanitizer, should take 20 to 30 seconds. If you're using the basin, it should take slightly longer, about 40 to 60 seconds. So with the basin, then you're rinsing off your hands. Try and rinse them downwards so that they're not going to drip back down your arm. And use paper towel to dry, so squeezing, patting dry, and then getting a fresh paper towel to turn off those taps, or else using your elbows again to turn them off. It's important always with your hands to pay attention to the condition of your hands, to make sure that there's no cracks in them. If you do have any cracks, to keep them covered while you're at work, using a Band-Aid or some kind of waterproof dressing, and to moisturise regularly as well to keep them in good condition. If you're using the sanitizer a lot, you should always be using it before and after you touch a person or their belongings. Every now and then you should use the warm water in the basin just to give yourself a good wash, because it can build up a bit of a residue on your hands.